Welcome to my very first October spooky ASMR. I am going to be taking you on a trip through art history, but not just any art history, haunted painting art history. I have a book of different spooky stories. And 10 different paintings I'm going to tell you about. Let's get started. William Blake, The Ghost of a Flea, 1819. My first impression of this painting is it looks like it's some sort of demonic creature, but he kind of looks like he's performing on a stage. You've got a curtain behind him and all of the stars. He truly is putting on a show. This painting is inspired by a spiritual vision that Blake had. Fleas contain the soul of men who were greedy and bloodthirsty. Blake's representation of the flea as the humanized character could be suggesting the idea that humans possess horrible qualities, or that humans and animals are no different. By painting this piece with dark and muted earth tones, Blake manages to make the flea appear incredibly creepy. This character is the stuff of nightmares, creeping through the darkness of its victims. Richard King, The Portrait of Samantha, 1887. She looks like just another nice girl, but something sinister is hiding beneath her eyes. Carrying a bouquet of flowers, she seems as if she's seen a ghost. The cheery portrait painted by Richard King depicts an adorable 4-year-old girl called Samantha Houston, daughter of a U.S. senator, and it carries a haunting legend. So goes the tale. The young Samantha Houston, the daughter of a U.S. senator, fell to her death while staying at the Tryskill in the year 1887. Present-day guests claim that merely gazing upon this painting makes one feel dizzy, as though you too are tumbling down a set of stairs. Others claim to have encountered Samantha's ghost in the hotel halls, or say that if you look at the painting long enough, Samantha's face contorts. Does she make you feel dizzy? Does she make you feel like you're falling? Henry Fuseli, The Nightmare, 1781. This painting I'm quite familiar with, and it's something that haunts my nightmares. Henry Fuseli was born and grew up in Switzerland until he was forced to flee from a vengeful, corrupt family. He explored Germany before ending up in England. Fuseli is famous for his supernatural imagination, though he paints in a style consistent with Romanticism. His paintings are inspired by the paranormal. The Nightmare portrays a dreaming woman in the content of her nightmare. This painting is often described as a nightmare that causes nightmares. It is a horrible representation of some of humanity's deepest fears. Fuseli's powerful use of light and shadow in his painting makes it very emotive to view. I can imagine myself in the place of the sleeping woman and feel genuine fear. This painting portrays a fear as old as humanity, the fear of not being safe while you sleep. The next painting I'm going to do my best to pronounce, but pronouncing words is not a strong suit I have, so bear with me. Katsushika Hokusai, The Ghost of Kohada, Koheiji, from the series 100 Ghost Stories, 1831. Hokusai created many creepy woodcuts throughout his life. Here he presents a scene from a Japanese legend in which a murdered actor rises from the dead to spook his wife and her lover. The actor looks like a handsome zombie, imagined as a skeleton with skin and hair still clinging to a skull. This might be the most spooky, scorned lover I've ever seen, and I love that it's made from wood, the dark and the light, the red, it's perfect. Edvard, Munch, The Scream, 1893. This is a painting we're all familiar with, and we have seen in one form or another. Hundreds of years later, this painting still spooks the best of us. Edvard Munch was a painter and printmaker who was inspired by psychological themes and expressionisms. He was raised by his aunt and deeply religious father. My father was temperamentally nervous and obsessively religious, to the point of psychoneurosis. From him, I inherited the seeds of madness. The angels of fear, sorrow, and death stood by my side since the day I was born. Munch suffered poor health throughout his childhood and began painting to ease his boredom as he was kept home from school. His imagination was overwhelmed by macabre visions inspired by ghost stories and religious dogma. The Scream was inspired by a feeling that he had as he was walking home one night. While the sun set, that nature was screaming. The blood-red sky certainly heightens the horrible intensity of this painting as the figure screams with anxiety. Mi Novova, Jean Luna, undated. This is a little bit softer than the last one we just looked at, but still somehow manages to still have an eerie feeling to it. Legend says this undated portrait by Jean Luna, also known as the Portrait of a Lady, is the artist's wife, who Jean Luna unalived. According to the legend, the painting is now possessed by the spirit of Paz, who brings misfortune upon its owners. Past owners have died in car crashes, been forced into bankruptcy, and experienced miscarriage, among other reported sorrows. During the opening night of the 1987 exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum of Melania, the spotlight bulb over the painting exploded. Hans Memling, Hell, 1485. Truly gripped in the depths of hell, this painting depicts all of our deepest, darkest fears. This painting depicts Memling's interpretation of hell and was intended to scare pity into members of the church. This terrifying painting shows a monstrous amalgamation of a man, woman, dragon, devil, bird, and dog, dancing on top of its burning victims. The distinctly red color palette lends itself to the religious imagery of hell as a place of eternal fire. Salvador Dali, The Face of War, 1940. Salvador Dali has an ability to just capture the perfect amount of horror in something that is also so beautiful. Salvador Dali is one of the most famous surrealist artists the world has ever known. This painting was created while Dali lived in California, inspired by the trauma of war. The infinity implied by repeating faces inside the eyes and the mouth seems to suggest a feeling of being haunted by a memory of people lost in the war that is never ending. In addition, the portrait is painted against the stark and desolate background, which could hint at feelings of isolation associated with depression, most definitely representing post-traumatic stress disorder. This painting is haunting and emotional. The overall feeling is of it being consumed by mental illness left from the war. Witch's Sabbath, Francisco Goya, 1798. We always love a painting of witches. The main character in the scene is the devil, depicted as a large male goat who is given 2 babies, either as an offering or as a part of an initiation ceremony into witchcraft. Goya loved to paint witches, both intrigued and interested in superstition, and fantastical imagery, as well as critical of its irrationality and the ignorance of superstitious practices. Interestingly, many see this painting actually being a critique of the Catholic religious fervor of the Spanish Inquisition, where fear and irrationality brought out the worst in human nature. And our very last painting of this evening is going to be The Woman of the Rain by Svetlana Telets, 1996. The elongated figure contrasting the darkness with the light just gives me a little unsettling feeling. This was created by Svetlana Telets, a Ukrainian artist, in 1996. The creation of this art has an eerie story behind it, which sends shivers down one's spine. According to Svetlana, her hands were guided over the canvas by some unbeknownst force, propelling her to finish in just 5 hours. What came out of that work is a gloomy and dark figure, shrouded in black clothing, standing in the rain. While the painting looks like just any other portrait, it has perplexing side effects for viewers, like sleeplessness, anxiety, and a constant fear of someone watching them. Everyone who's bought the painting would return it back to Svetlana, with some even ready to give back half of what they had originally cost. The painting currently hangs in a salon in Kiev, where customers occasionally report the painting showing signs of anger. I hope you enjoyed this spooky art history lesson and don't have any problems falling asleep tonight.